How does $25,000 in 45 minutes sound to you? What if there was a way to sell to clients and close them in 45 minutes with no proposal and it actually increased the chances that they'd buy from you again? Even if you hate selling or sales, you might feel uncomfortable selling to clients. There is a magical, stress free, and fast way to get clients to say yes, pay you, and hand over the money, all without writing a single proposal. Now, I've used this exact method to close projects from $10,000 to $175,000 without writing a single proposal, and I've taught thousands of funnel builders how to do the exact same. One client even landed $70,000 worth of work in just a few weeks using this exact framework that I'm about to teach you. Now, this first part, if you miss this or skip this, you're going to waste your time on low value clients with no budget. If you've ever had someone at the end of a call say, "Whoa, that's a lot of money. I wasn't expecting to spend that," or maybe ghost you entirely. So the three things that you're going to need to get started, and I'm going to take you through when you need these. You'll need a payment page or somewhere to be able to take payments from people on the phone. You're going to need something to book calls with, like Calendly or the high level calendar app. And you need a way to be able to make calls like Zoom. You can use Google Meet, you can use your phone, or you can even use high levels like built-in call function. What we are not going to be doing is writing any proposals. We're not going to be creating any complex paperwork. And we're also going to prevent ghosting and you having to chase the client. If we look at the average or regular process for selling high ticket services or consulting or agency work to your clients, you usually get a lead come in. And then if you're anything like me, I used to do these long 2-hour discovery calls, or I'd call them strategy sessions or whatever. And we talk about a bunch of different ideas. And then I'd do another 2-hour call with them to try and get more ideas from them. And they tell me all of their context and they tell me all of their ideas. And I'd agree with them and say, yeah, we could do this. And we talk about creativity and marketing and that type of stuff. Often during this part, I would basically give free coaching and I would feel, well, I'm demonstrating value because I'm showing that I know what I'm talking about. And then eventually I'd get around to writing a proposal, and this would take days, sometimes weeks. And I don't know about you, but I used to have my proposals sat in my outbox waiting, and I'd be like, well, I don't really want to send it yet. Maybe it's not perfect. Part of that was because I didn't know what I really need to put in the proposal to make it sort of seem like it was worth a lot of money. But I also used to struggle with the pricing. But I would also be worried that they'd reject it. And so what would end up happening, you'd get this loop where you'd send them the proposal. They would say, we want some feedback, here's some changes, and you'd go back and rewrite it. And it would go round and round and round. And eventually they'd say, yeah, that sounds good. And I would have to chase them for payments. I'd say, hey, did you want to start the project anytime soon? I'd have to do follow up. And I'd wait for weeks at a time for any kind of payment or deposit to come through, only to then have to do another call where we would talk through the process a bit more. Usually by this point, they would have hired like their nephew or something, and they would say, well, my nephew says that we only need this type of website. And I'd be like, oh my God. And then one of three things would happen. Sometimes they would buy, which would be great. Lots of times they would just ghost me. They would just disappear, or maybe they'd go with a competitor. And a lot of times people would say, oh, that's way too expensive, and then just drop me entirely. Missing this first part means that you are going to get people who say, whoa, that's a lot of money, or they're going to ghost you entirely. If you skip this, you're going to waste your time on a lot of these people. Let me know in the comments if you've ever had anyone kind of just ghost you, or if you've ever had that classic at the end of the call, like, oh my God, that's so much. When I learned this, I ended up having fewer calls in the long run, and more people bought from me sooner, and I was being paid a lot quicker. I was getting the cash into my account a lot faster. The first thing that you need to do if you want to sell faster is you actually need to categorically pre-qualify them using forms and even an email check-in. So what I do now is I get people to fill out some kind of form, and that tells me a little bit about their business. If I feel that from the answers from that form, they are qualified or qualified enough, I will allow them to book a call. And then even after they've booked a call, I'll send them a confirmation email that says, hey, could you just send me back a couple of sentences about what you do, or if there's anyone else you're working with. And I'm constantly trying to qualify them through this process. And then after the confirmation call, that's when I'll get on a really quick 10-minute call with them. Now, you can only help certain people. You have to understand this. This is not just for this process of selling quickly. It's for the kind of sanity and health of your own business. For example, Eliud Kipchoge is a sub 2 hour marathon runner. For those who don't know, a marathon is 26.2 miles. He ran that in 2 hours. That's running at 13 miles per hour for 2 hours. No one in history had ever done that before. And Nike worked with him for I think it was called like Breaking Two or something. They worked with him because he was already close to that. He did it in something like 1:59:54 or something like that. He was already at something like 2:03 or 2:01 or something. Nike worked with Eliud because he was already close to it. They didn't work with a beginner and try to get them up to that point. They found someone who had hit that barrier and then said, we can help you get past that. What you are trying to do with the pre-qualification and the subsequent qualification calls is making sure that you're working with Eliuds and not like me, for example, in terms of running. What I found with this method is that overall my calls have gone down. Also, the number of clients that I've worked with has gone down, but the amount of money that I've earned has gone significantly up. And so what I like to do is book a quick 10-minute qualification call where I basically ask them the same questions I've asked previously and some more questions. This little framework here is basically how I run a 10-minute qualification call. And the goal is just to figure out, are they suitable to sell to? Should I invest more of my time selling to them? And we do three things. We set the pace, we qualify them, and then we score them. And set the pace means if you've ever had someone jump on a call, you might be thinking, how could I possibly find out enough information in 10 minutes? You can do that if you set the pace. So what I like to do is I'll say, hey, Mike, thank you so much for jumping on with me. I've got calls back to back right now, so I've only got about 15 minutes. So what we'll do, if it's okay with you, I'm going to ask you a ton of questions and figure out if and how I can help you. If I can't help you, I'll let you know, but I'll make a few suggestions and perhaps point you in the best direction. If I can help you, we'll book in a call with more time so that we can get into it. Does that sound okay? What you're doing is you're taking control of the call, which is critical, and you're making sure that they know that you're not here to mess around. I have never had anyone push back against this. Everyone goes, oh, that's great. I'm really glad to know that you've got a process. And then we get into the qualification questions. Now, my favorite framework for this is BANTS, BANTS. And I'll basically go through these questions to find out budget, authority, need, timescale, and suppliers. So I'll start with a really kind of high level question and say, in 3 sentences, tell me what your business does, who you help, and what type of results you get for them. And in theory, they should come back with something like, I'm a business coach. I specifically work with financial institutions, and what I help them do is generate more revenue per client. Around this point is when people want to give you context. And that's really, really bad for the pace of the business. So when they start saying, let me give you a bit of context. Well, I started in 1985, and I'll say, I'll stop you there. I appreciate the context. We'll have time to get into that. Right now, I just need to know, what does your business do? Who do you help? And what type of results do you get? I want to keep it really, really tight. And then I'll run through these types of questions. So I'll say, how much are you expecting to spend on a project like this? Or how much do you think someone like me costs? Maybe I'll say, like, what type of budget have you got for set aside for something like this? Authority is basically, is there anyone else that needs to be on this call, or are you the sole decision maker for the business? If you've ever had a call end where they say, where you've gone, here's the price, here's the project, here's what's going to happen, and they've said, oh, great, I just need to get my manager to look over this. That's because you haven't got the decision maker or the authority. So ask them, are you the sole decision maker? Is there anyone else who needs to know about our products or services or ask questions about working with us before you need to make a decision? That's a really critical question, because often when you're working with smaller businesses, they'll say, I really want to run it past my partner. I'd like to run it past my husband. I'd like to run it past my wife. That's fine. Get them on the next call. If you take anything away from this video, this piece here about the decision maker, if they aren't the only decision maker, stop the call, rebook, and move on. If they say, oh, they'll join at a different time, you need to stop and say, massively appreciate all of your enthusiasm. The thing is, I've been practicing this kind of pitch and sales method for a long time, and it would be unfair to expect you to deliver it to someone without any training or payment. What we'll do is let's rebook at the best time to get you both on the call, and we'll take it from there. In some cases, I've even said to them, well, if they're there now, get them to jump on, and they have done. This is critical. Need then gets into basically things like the scarcity and your personal authority. So, why did you book a call with me? Why did you book a call today and not in 6 months' time? What are you looking for from someone like me? What is it you're looking for within the business? This is figuring out what they think the problems are and the types of results. And you might want to prioritize it by saying, what's the biggest need you're looking to fix in the business, or what are the top 3 problems in the business? Spend a bit of time on this one and deep dive it. That should probably be where you spend the most amount of time on your 10-minute call. And then time scale is basically figuring out how close are they to buying. So I'll say, is this a sooner thing or a later thing? Is this something you need to fix today, or are you planning ahead? Or when are you start thinking of starting this project? If they say we need to fix this today, we need to fix this right now, they've got enough scarcity in them and they've got enough urgency to be able to move forward. Urgency is the name of the game here. If they say, we're kind of shopping around, I'll go, okay, fantastic. That's going to put them on a pretty low score for me. And then finally, suppliers is, are you working with anyone else to solve this? Have you got any other coaches, consultants, software? Is there anything else that you've tried in the past? Is there anything that you're currently working on to get the same kind of results? And I'll ask a few other questions like, is there anything else you think I should know? I basically want to figure out, does this look like someone who I am willing to take the time to sell to? That's what we're doing on this call. And then finally, I'll score them. And scoring uses a slightly different metric called magic. M for money. Can they afford me? Whenever I ask them the budget and they go, I don't really know what we've got a budget. I'll go, great, $100,000. They go, what? Whoa. Oh, okay, so you do have a budget then. Go, yeah, I mean, we were thinking of maybe 10 grand or 25 grand. I go, fantastic. So can they afford me? Can they also afford to implement my advice? It's one thing to pay me. It's another thing when I say you need to set up a new CRM for them to go, oh, we can't now afford the CRM. So you need to know that they can afford both of these. G is for gains. Can I get them results? Based on the small amount of information I know already, does it look like I can get them results? Interest. Do I like them? There's been a bunch of people who I've jumped on the call. I'm like, I just think we butt heads and I don't really want to work with you. And then finally, community, also connections. Does it look like this person has a broad range of audiences out there that I could tap into to get some easy wins? And also, does it look like they refer? And I might even ask them that. So what I do is I score them on this part of the process. And then if I feel like this is worth a longer 45-minute call, because I think they're qualified, I'll say to them, great. So the good news is I think I can help you. So what we'll do is we'll book in a call. We'll come up with a solution. I can do next Thursday at 3 p.m. How does that sound? And I'll book in a time there and then. If I don't think they're suitable, but because I don't like them, they haven't got the budget, I will say, okay, so right now, I don't think that the program I'm running is the right fit for you. So I don't think we'll be moving forward past this call. However, I do have a self-paced program and a course that would be a better fit, well within your budget. Or I do have a couple of suppliers that I work with who might be able to help you out. I'll send you over some details. So I'll shift them onto a different product. If not, we book in a 45-minute referral. By the way, if you want this whiteboard, you can actually get all of this plus all the notes and the models and things that I'm talking through. You can get it for free by heading over to sellyourservice.co.uk/whiteboard, or you can use the link below if you want to get access to this exact whiteboard from this video plus a bunch of others. So for the second part of the process on the 45-minute sales call, this is where we're going to collect the money. If you've ever felt like too salesy or uncomfortable with a sales call, it's probably because you're not following a process like this. This will help you sell confidently. It'll help you sell calmly, even if you're not experienced. And the reason I like it is because you don't have to memorize a lot of scripts. This method is the overlap between letting me sell pretty much anything to anyone for basically any price. It's also going to help you get paid faster on the day of the call rather than waiting weeks and weeks and weeks for a deposit to come through. What is also fascinating about this method is that using this actually increases the amount that you can charge, and it will result in more people buying from you and willing to spend more money just from using this process. It's also going to stop people from ghosting you and coming up with reasons not to buy. So I want to start by saying that lots of people, when they're selling to the customer, they feel it's important to let the customer decide how they want to buy. The problem with that is that if you don't have a method for selling, you are going to be at the mercy of your customer's method for buying. In an ideal world, they'll get it for as cheap as possible, the best deal possible. They'll amble about it. They won't feel any stress or pain points when they're handing over the money. We don't want them to take control of the buying process. We need to take control of the selling process. If you met a doctor who kind of stumbled their way through a consultation and seemed a bit scatterbrained, would you have the confidence in their practice, right? But instead, if you meet a doctor who asks the right questions and seems calm and gets to the point, it gives you confidence in the procedure that they recommend. This here is the sales process from start to finish, right? Getting them up to buy. Most people believe that it is split into a few different sections, and they'll think that presumably most of it is selling, the next part is closing, and the next part is turning objections. That is fundamentally incorrect. The majority of a 45-minute sales call, and yes, you absolutely can close a $25,000 project. I've closed $200,000 projects on these types of calls. The majority of it needs to be spent still qualifying. A very small part is selling, and then a very small part is closing and handling objections. You need to know, and this will hopefully take the pressure off, most of the time will be spent just asking questions and digging into it. I like to divide my sales calls into like 3 parts. The first part is very, very short. The middle part is probably the longest. And then the bottom part kind of is where we're going to close and make some money. The first and most important part of the process is both urgency and, again, setting the pace or the tone. So when they jump back on and say, hey, Mike, really good to see you back here. I don't spend a lot of time going, how was your weekend? Oh, did you see the latest Dune movie? I don't worry about any of that. I'll say, thanks very much for joining. I'm really glad to see that you're with us. So let me take you through how we run this. We're going to run this call, and I'm going to take you through the entire process and see if we can help each other. If I feel that we would be a good fit, I'll make an offer to you to buy. And if you feel it's a good fit, then we can close and make a decision on the call today. So the goal of the call is to make a decision for us to work together. Does that sound fair? I'll go, yeah, basically I'll go, great. All I want to do is ask you a bunch of questions. We'll talk about a bunch of roadblocks, and then we'll figure out, does it make sense for us to work together? Yes, that's that first part done. Simple. I will then briefly qualify them again. And the main thing I'm looking for is urgency. And you'll see a lot of the same questions coming up again and again and again. So again, we'll come back onto the call or on the call, and I'll say, so tell me how urgent you think this is within your business. How critical do you think this is working on a project like this? The more ways that you can get them to say, yes, this is urgent, the more likely they are to buy today. If they're ambling about it, there's very little that you can do to make them buy unless they feel it's urgent. Now, again, usually around this point, they'll feel the need to give you lots and lots of context about like why their business is slightly different from everyone else's and all the amazing things they've done in the past and what's failed and what hasn't worked and what they've tried. They'll talk about all their bad hires. So again, I'll say, okay, just to make sure, I'll stop you there. I'll interrupt you. I apologize. I promise you we'll get around to all of this. I've got like a notes system that I use sort of in my head. So I promise you we'll get to all of that very quickly in 1 or 2 sentences. What type of business do you run? Who do you work with? And what type of results do you get? And again, I know I've asked that question previously on a few calls ago or the previous call, but I want to get that understanding from them. The most important question that you could probably ask them is, how do you make money? Which was given to me by a friend. I absolutely love that question. How do you make money? And then we also ask, what are you looking for from someone like me? Why now? Why would you want to do this now? See, these are all types of urgency. Why have you booked a call with me? Why now? How critical is this? Are you looking to do this sooner or later? We're trying to figure out how urgent it is, because the more urgency there is, the less need there is for us to sort of get clever with the sales technique. So again, if you want the whiteboard for all of this, like I'll give you all of that if you just head over to sellyourservice.co.uk/whiteboard or use the link down below. So now I'm going to take you through basically like my entire sales process. So that's that first part done. Urgency, pace, tone. Why do they want to work with me? The need. We're still qualifying them essentially. Here's how I run sales calls. I draw 2 cliff faces, and I literally draw this out. I could even show you. So here you go. This is on my Remarkable. This is the notebook that I use. This is the format that I use. Okay, I use two cliffs. And what I'm doing is I'm finding out where they are now or today, where their goals are or what the future is. And this middle part is either the gap or roadblocks. What I want to do is focus on what I call my core currencies and the things that I can fix and solve within their business. For example, let's say that my core kind of goal is to help clients land five $10,000 clients. Inside that process are a bunch of smaller things that make up that goal. There'll be things like leads, price, how many sales they're making at the moment, maybe the size of their list, the size of their audience, maybe their team size, how much time are they spending at work, what's their current profitability. And I will try to keep things focused around these core currencies that make up the big kind of result that I think they want. Now, this comes with a little bit of practice, but my advice would be to brainstorm it for the first time, have a think about the types of results that you want to get your clients, and then think about, okay, well, what are all of the individual smaller reports that they need to work on? And so we get into this and I'll go, great. Tell me what you think your business looks like in 12 months' time after we've worked together and everything's perfect. And they'll say, well, we have revenue of 1 million. I'm working 3 days a week. We've got 5 core products. We make, 10 sales a day and got a big YouTube channel. I go, fantastic. Right? That's their goals already. Anything else? I go, I don't know, maybe we could have 6 or 7 team members, maybe in a position to sell. I go, fantastic. Anything else? And they'll say, I don't know, maybe YouTube brings us in some passive revenue, maybe through ads. I go, fantastic. Anything else? And I want to get all of their goals out. And they go, no. So you say you want your revenue to be at 1 million. Where's your revenue now? And they'll say, oh, it's about 750,000. Okay, great. What do you think is preventing you from getting from 750,000 to 1 million? What's the gap or the roadblock in the middle? They'll say, well, I think our core problem is that we just don't have a good sales process. Now, I will always, most of the time, for the things like the gap, I will always ask them, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? And I'll say, well, I think we're currently a bit clunky and we don't do as many sales calls as we should do right now. I go, okay, so tell me about that. How many sales calls are you making? And they'll say, well, we only do kind of outreach sort of 3 or 4 times a month. So if I take a look at their list here, I can say 3 to 4 times a month. Great. You said that you want to have 5 kind of core products. How many products have you got at the moment? They say, oh, we've only got, 4 core products. Okay, fantastic. So what do you think is preventing you from getting to the 5th one or launching a 5th one? And they'll say something along the lines of, we just don't have enough time. Okay, awesome. And how many leads are you generating then a month? I'll say, we're generating maybe 100 leads a month. Okay, cool. What do you think it needs to be then in order to hit these numbers? And I'll say, oh, it's probably about 500. Okay, fantastic. And all I'm doing is comparing their goals where they want to be. So I'm jumping backwards and forwards between these core currencies. What's critical to understand is where you make big money is with currencies that they want, that you can help them get, or problems that you can fix, and something that actually affects the business. For example, they might want YouTube subscribers, sales, and a book deal. It might be that sales and YouTube are the only things that actually affect the business. The only thing that you can really help them get is sales, but you can also do things around pricing and email. And obviously, there's billions of things that can affect the business, but you need to make sure that the currencies that they want, that you can fix and that affect the business all overlap. So I have a list of what currencies affect the business and that I can help with. And I will ask them questions about these smaller currencies, about their goals, and what is preventing them from getting there by themselves. Now, I've got a ton of questions that I'll include in the whiteboard if you go ahead and download it. But what's really interesting about this process is when you start repeating back to them, okay, so what's the priority? They'll say it's definitely to get to 1 million. I go, great. But you feel your revenue is currently at 750,000. But your current biggest roadblock is the sales process. Is that right? They go, yeah, that's exactly it. If they say no, then go through the process again. Okay, what's the biggest priority? What's your roadblock? Where are you right now? And repeat back to them that. And this is where I like to then flip this process. So this is the final part of the triangle. This is basically the discovery phase. And now we're going to sell and close Within about 15 minutes, this part of the process should take up most of the time. And then the selling and the closing part is very, very quick. Here's what I love to do. First time I did this, I closed my first customer and got a $10,000 deposit into my account. And we also helped other funnel builders do exactly that. Better than that, I've shown lots of funnel builders how to do this without having to use like cheesy or pushy sales methods. Closing should be a fun, exciting part of the process where you're going to start working with someone. This is where the customer gets their first result, is when they actually buy. So this is how we get the money, okay? What I like to do is I flip this whole process back on them and I'll say, okay, so it looks like the core goal is to help us hit 1 million. You're currently at 750,000 and you feel your biggest sort of roadblock or problem is a lack of a clear sales process. Does that sound about right? If you have ever worried about being able to define value or come across as valuable, this here is basically how you solidify that. They will go, oh my God, that's exactly it. What I then do is, look, I've asked you a lot of questions. I've got a pretty good understanding about the business. What type of questions do you have for me? And they're going to have one of 3 questions. What should we do? How does this work? And of course, how much does this cost? If they ask the cost question first, I like to go, yeah, we'll cover that. Anything else while we're kind of going through your questions? And they'll go, well, I guess I'd like to know, like, what is it that we should actually do next? What's the next steps? This is when I will take them through a very brief summary of how I would fix this problem. The easiest way to do this is to draw this little box and to say, okay, so currently we want to get you to 1 million. You're currently at 750,000 and you feel your sales process is the weakest area. What we're going to do is we're going to work on your sales process and we're going to implement something that we call the dollar a day method. And I don't know, I've just literally made that out of I've pulled that out of my hat, right? I will name the individual solutions that I have for the process. I'll say we've got this process called, I don't know, maybe it's $100 a day, $100 a day where we start an email campaign to start driving this number up using your current customers. Does that sound a good place to start? And they go, yeah, okay, great. I'll say, what else? And I'll go, okay, what else should we do? And I'll focus on 2, maybe 3 core problems. Another one I think they said is they're currently doing 100 leads. They want to get it to 500, but they feel that their opt-in pages suck. I go, great. We have basically this thing called the traffic converter. And what we're going to do is we're going to slowly drive up your leads and start capitalizing on the traffic you're already generating by increasing your conversion rates. And that's going to allow us to sell more within the sales process. How does that sound? I go, yeah, that sounds great. Usually by that point, they have a pretty clear idea because we're just focusing on these core currencies. They actually don't want to know a lot of the details. That's when I'll say, what else would you like to know? And I'll say, well, how does it work? And this is another really simple process. What we're going to do is in the next week, we're going to jump on a call and we're going to come up with a plan together. This is going to run you through step by step what we're going to do over the next 12 months to drive your revenue up to $1 million and get you that extra 250. How does that sound? Yep, fantastic. Cool. The next part of the process is at each stage of the campaign, we're either going to create the tools for you, come up with them, use our templates, and start building that out for you to generate this. In our experience, businesses like yours can start seeing sales in as quickly as 30 to 45 days. And what we will do is maintain all those tools for you throughout that process. How does that sound? Go, yeah, great. And the final part is support. For the first few weeks, you and I are going to get on 2 to 3 calls per week just to make sure we're caught up on what we're doing. And then we'll move that to roughly a call once every 14 days or fortnight or something like that. And it might go down after that. And that means that you are only ever 1 call away or 1 email away from getting the support you need to work on the rest of the campaign. How does that sound? This is when people then have the question, well, how much does this cost? The answer to that is a straight answer. And what you should be doing is practicing saying the number that you have in mind. So when they go, okay, so how much does this cost? I go, it's $24,000. And they go, okay. That's when I'll then go into details. I give them 1 number. Occasionally, I might say something like, it's a $3,500 deposit, and then it's 11 months of $2,500. Okay. But in my experience, I prefer just getting the number out quickly, letting them chew on it a little bit, think about it. I then don't say anything until they come back with, okay, and is that like a deposit? Is that a month or whatever? And I go, fantastic. It's a $3,500 deposit and then $2,000 or $2,500 a month for 11 months. It's a 12-month commitment and we can get started today and start getting your results today. I just need to collect the $3,500. So is that a payment by card? And that's how I close. Yes, there will be a few objections, but I then keep coming back to, let me take the $3,500 and we can get started today. Now that you've got a framework for selling, you probably want a method of delivering these kinds of results to customers and guaranteeing them results, which is why I've got this video here talking you through how to guarantee $100,000 results to your clients and give exactly what you need to do in order to get them killer results.